As lunch bell ring, everybody run, come gather round in the square, ready fi have fun. On a ring game time, on a hide and seek. Give me some fun squares with nacho cheese. Fun squares with nacho cheese. A fun cracker that we need. Bold flavor, yes indeed. Give me some fun squares with nacho cheese. Fun squares with nacho cheese. Fun squares with nacho cheese. The fun cracker that we need. National Fun Squares with nacho cheese. National Fun Square, share the fun.
Talk Up Yout is powered by National Baking Company in association with Cranwatha, a Stanley and Empress production, giving the youth a voice.
Talk Up Yout, myself a Talk Up Yout.
And so we come to know these youths and show these youths. Talk Up Yout, help the youths to know them roots. Nurture them, protect and love and hear these youths. Music make them know I love we show these youths.
Mr. Save the youth, I kill the youth, I talk up youth, I build the youth, I trick and fool and pill the youth, I talk up youth, I build the youth, empower and then skill the youth, I talk up youth, I build the youth, talk up youth in Jamaica, we are
Build the youths there.
talk up youth in Jamaica.
Greetings, baby boomers, born 1946 to 1964. Hi to my mom and dad, that's you. And my Generation Xers, born 1965 to 1980. Believe it or not, that's my team. And big up the new kids on the block, the generation that everyone's talking about, the Millennials, born 1981 to 2000. Now, global studies have characterized many millennials as narcissistic, impatient, individualistic, lazy, but they've also said that you are ambitious, passionate, open-minded, bold, and tech-savvy. Yes, all generations can be stereotyped, but we at Talk Up Yout know that you, our millennials, are a valuable group who must be heard and understood. We know that you're shaping the future for the next generation. So, after this show, we hope that youth advocates, leaders, governments, businesses, and parents will finally be able to have better insight into you. Talk Up Yout, Miss Effie, Talk Up Yout.
We have to build the youths there.
Talk up youth in Jamaica.
The millennial generation. We are born into a modern era of new technologies, social and economic changes, and broken barriers in communication. Now, with all these developed forms of life that we were meant to indulge in, our ideology falls short of all the expectations of previous generations, such as Generation X and the baby boomers generation. Because of this, they feel as if we have it way too easy. It's a shame. They even question our ideology all the time. So, us youth, as youth, are deprived of grace and glory because of foretold false stories. All those previous generations are selling us the wrong kind of ideals and dreams, and it has caused us youth, as youth, to be discouraged, misunderstood, to not be benevolent, to not be willing to learn or try things, and to be in fear.
We have to be fully cognizant of the fact that there has been a paradigm shift. From my parents on to me, there has been a huge cultural jolt. And my issue really lies within the unwillingness to assist us in adjusting to this world. This world isn't millennium friendly. It isn't. A perfect example is within our education system. The world has evolved and our education system has not. Our education system has not been able to facilitate that shifting culture or shifting ideology, right? We are still back in the colonial days where modesty is seen over individuality.
Our voices need to be heard. It is a case where there are not enough media through which our voices can be heard. We may make silly mistakes and we are reprimanded immediately, saying, why, we never used to do that, or we never used to do this. Case in point. There was a time where I took a public transportation, and coming off it, I was feeling a bit of pain. But then I asked the driver to go up a bit more on the road. So he said, go up for what? In my days, I used to walk how many distances, how many long miles. But then he didn't understand from my perspective. And the adults nowadays, what they do is they look down on us without, hearing from us a proper explanation. So I believe that, an ear needs to be given to our voices.
Here's my thing. Speaking about millennials from a Jamaican point of view, whether or not we want to acknowledge it, we've done a lot of work to help it, but the fact still remains that Jamaica still has a very strong children should be seen and not heard type of culture. Now, because of that children should be seen and not heard type of culture, what you find is that asking why becomes disrespectful. And our generation gives new meaning to Generation Y because we want to know the reason for everything. So we're going to ask. We don't see it as disrespectful, but for some reason our culture says that to ask why, to ask questions is disrespect. No, because of that, persons view us as, oh, we're entitled, or we think we need privileges that other people don't have. That's not the situation. We just want to know why. Yes, our views tend to differ from social and cultural views that you would consider the norm, but for my sociology people on the panel and my sociology students watching, what we know said there comes about deviance. It can be functional. It can lead to social change, positive social change, right? So instead of condemning us for deviating from the norms that you believe to be correct because it is your opinion, then we need to actually have conversations about, okay, these are my views, these are your views. We need to search for the functionality in the deviance instead of condemning millennials and not allowing us to have a voice.
Millennials, this is such a spoken about topic these days that sometimes I feel like, let me draw this analogy, sometimes I feel as if I'm an animal in a zoo exhibition. Oh, look, a millennial, but he doesn't have his phone out. Oh, wait, spoke too soon. I feel as if what is happening is that there is a conflict. There's a conflict between the millennials and our predecessors, and what is happening is that they're really trying to figure us out. And in them trying to figure us out, they sort of make a lot of bold assumptions about us, about our ideologies, about what we believe in, and what that sort of does is it puts us in a box. They're so entitled. They're so lazy, and the arguments are never consistent, it seems. Even with the arguments with millennials in the workforce, they're so lazy, they're always on their phones. But then you'll have a set who are saying, millennials feel so entitled, they want to be in influential positions in the organization, so they're trying to one-up everybody else whilst trying to impress the boss. The arguments are never consistent, so I feel as if on the topic of the millennials, I think the real problem is not the millennials themselves, but rather the party trying to figure us out.
In the words of the great Malcolm X, he says that the future belongs to those who prepare for it. Now, clearly, the times are changing, and if we don't keep abreast with these technological advances of today's world, we are going to get left behind also. And from Generation X's point of view, we are labeled as lazy, narcissist, privileged, you know. I mean, come on. We are getting technology at a fast pace, and we have to keep abreast with all of these. And yes, it may seem as though we have things easier, which might be true, but to me, it seems as though that Generation X's, they are a bit jealous in a sense of what we are exposed to now. And I'm pretty sure that if what we're exposed to now, if they had the opportunity to experience it back in their time, maybe they would have, made use of it the same way we are right now.
Jealous? Well, some very interesting perspectives from our panel today. We're going on a break, but we'll be right back with some more Talk of Youth. Stay tuned.
We have to build the youth there.
Talk of Youth in Jamaica.
There is no other bun like this one. The flavor is so good. Who say bun can't sweet? Oops, mind you bite your finger.
National spiced buns, baked with national pride.
My wow moment.
My wow moment.
My wow moment.
Kind of water with wow.
That's my wow. That's my wow.
Yeah.
Water we do watch out.
My wow moment when I get the highest massage. That's my wow. Water with wow.
When we get 16 and maths, I never expect so much. That's my wow.
Kind of water with wow. When school over, I'ma get for me. Yeah. That's my wow.
Water with wow.
When I get my back food, that's my wow. Kind of water with wow.
Water with wow.
Your future come first, talk the truth, talk the truth. Youths in a caucus out, wanna go, oh. If you want be cute, try get high grades, get high grade.
Get high grades in your brain and not in your lungs, a strip on IV. Don't blind your vision with smoke and let the bus tell your friends themselves to stop doing.
Criminalization, and don't mean it legalized. You can still be penalized. Why you penalizing your lungs with ganja? Hey, youths be wise.
Youths know the facts. Follow us at Drug Free JA. Brought to you by the National Council on Drug Abuse.
We have to build the youths there.
Youth in Jamaica.
Call me the devil's advocate, but I can sit here and say with no reservation that this world isn't nice to millennials. But I can also say that millennials aren't nice to this world either. To some extent, we are privileged. We do take things beyond the limit.
What limit? Limit set by who? That's the real issue, because we come here, we come into the world, we see the limits that have been set, we question them, we ask why they're there, and we're not getting real answers. So who sets these limits, and who is to say that those limits are more valid than the ones we set for ourselves?
Okay, the limit that I speak of is socially, the way how we interact with even ourselves. The way how we interact is not that of sending a message of kindness and gentleness, it's of aggression and hatred. We no longer interact with each other genuinely. Social media was put in place for us to connect, but we've moved further apart from each other. Certain mediums were put in place to make our lives easier, but yet we took advantage of it. Let's take, for instance, Google. Instead of actually getting up and say, oh, you know what, let me look in, oh, no, I'm going to Google it.
I definitely agree with you. There is a certain sense of entitlement that it projects certain circumstances where, you know, a millennial may be so quick and willing to alienate another and even be very belligerent towards each other. This self-absorbed demeanor, you know, wanting to just be all for one and one for one.
But doesn't that have a lot more to do with how the generation before us raised us than it has to do with just us existing as millennials?
Not necessarily, because if you look throughout the test of time, you see that there was more camaraderie amongst people.
If we've ever looked at a lot of the articles that are written about millennials, they're normally by persons from the previous generation trying to understand us. I think the reason why millennials may appear so entitled in a way is because subconsciously we are all obsessed with the feeling of progression. Right. So, and let me explain if I may. So we're into ourselves. We just need to make that impact. How can I do this? How can I be prettier? How can I, me. And let me, from my favorite TV show, right? Dexter's Laboratory. So Dexter has his little antidote thingies, right? And he is so focused on how can he do it for himself. And then whenever he finally gets it, boom, eureka, document. And how do we document? By the selfie, boom. If we haven't noticed, we are the most documented generation. Have you ever noticed that? So instead of looking at it as a problem, why can't we look at it as a contribution?
It is no fallacy that previous generations see us as undisciplined folk. We don't really know how to go about things the right way. But what exactly is the right way? Is it that they really are trying to project their expectations onto us? They want us to preserve whatever dealings they had back then, the ideologies, the beliefs, the whatever system that they were working with back then. They want us to carry it on.
They're trying to attach certain ideologies and value systems to us that they deem as human. But when I look at it in a way, I think being human really is being progressive, being able to grow and develop, whether individually or generationally. We cannot avoid it. So if it means that we're growing in such a way that we will move towards technological advancements, why can't we just look at our long hours of being around technology as a contribution rather than an addiction? If you understand what I'm saying.
Your example about Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, my favorite show.
People out there that watch Dexter.
Yeah, right? I know your shows. I know your shows.
When Dexter is in his lab, he's there and he's focused on his experiments completely.
Yeah.
I'm going somewhere. Yeah. And his sister comes in. When Dee Dee comes in, she doesn't make any effort to understand what Dexter is doing. She doesn't want to hear what he's saying. She wants Dexter to stop being himself and do what she wants him to do.
That's deep.
Right? She's not listening to what he's saying at all. She's not asking Dexter, what are you doing? How can I help? She's not saying, okay, let me suggest you come outside and play with me. She's coming in, disrupting what he's doing, and expecting him to have a positive response. And that's the same dynamic that we're facing now.
But as young people, let me step away from the cartoon for a minute. As young people, we complain. But what have you been doing in your different spheres to actually help to change the stigma that is attached to young people? How is it that we respond to certain things? Why is it that we are leaving the responsibility up to Generation X to fix our problems? If you understand what I'm saying. You made a mention to Dexter, and you said the sister come in and she asked, da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, instead of us blaming the previous generation for the issues that we now face, honestly speaking, from where I am, young people are lazy. They are. And we cannot sit here and lie to ourselves and all of Jamaica and say young people don't lazy. Them lazy, bad.
I agree
We're not
with
blaming.
you.
Hold on. We're not blaming the previous generation for our mistakes.
I blatantly heard you said that. No, you said it. It is because of the generation that raised us.
No, I'm saying it has a lot to do with how we were raised. I'm not saying it has everything to do with how we are raised. Part of it also has to do with technology. And we're not blaming them for the way we are now, but we're just saying open a forum for discussion.
But forums have been open on several occasions, and young people, because they are lazy, they have not went.
I really do believe that Generation X had tried their best and are still trying their best to just root us deep, even deeper down into colonization, if you asked me. Because what you see is what goes, and what you see you may not ask why, how to change it, how to evolve it, how to let it progress. Come on, let's go.
It's like we are bashed for being unorthodox or even asking questions. What happens when I ask those elders? They either have no answer, they either reject the fact that I even asked it, they ignore me, or they decide that they're gonna bash me. You know, oh, you shouldn't ask no question, man. Do what I tell you to do. I'm like, what?
I mean, I could relate to that also. Like, sometimes when I propose an idea to my parents or my grandparents or an elder, per se, you know, they would give their proposal and I would answer back. I say, what if? And then they'd be like, a back chat, really? Like, give me back chat? I mean, take some time to listen what my proposal is. Give me a chance to voice my opinions.
It also comes back to the issue of choice. Do we have a choice? Is it that what you say goes? Is it that when you answer our questions, do we still have the choice to make whether to stick to what you have said or to, you know, launch out in faith as to whatever is out there for us to launch out into?
See that now?
It all comes down to choice. Is it our lives or is it yours?
Hold on, you see that now? I don't think that there necessarily is a choice given by them. We have to make a choice. You know what I'm saying? Because if we actually gave them the choice, we would be sticking with the status quo belief system that they want us to go with. You know, there would be no progression, no real innovation. We'd be stuck in them ways. We have to stick with the times. The modernity in life right now gives us a lot more leverage, yes. So even with technology, yes, there's pros and cons with that, what we did want to touch still. But even with technology, you have people making money with social media. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, there's this story of this kid in high school who learned about stock exchange and accounts through social media. And when he got the idea of it, he was like, all right, maybe I could do something with this. So what did he do? He studied the stock exchange through Google and YouTube. He studied accounts, and this kid is buying shares in high school. He's buying shares, and he might even be a stakeholder of some kind of enterprise. You know what I'm saying? So by the time he graduates from high school, he may not even have to go to college. Or if he wants to, he can pay his own tuition.
I'm really trying to be patient with generations before us to really come to terms to understand that it's okay to step outside of the norm.
It is.
It's really okay. And what I really think the need to do is to just understand us. Understand where we're coming from, understand where we want to go. Because at the end of the day, we really do want to contribute to human progress.
And persons have made lots of strides before us, you know, like the generations before us, they have done extremely well in a number of ways. If they weren't doing well, we wouldn't be able to do well at all, right? But we need to understand that social change happens through deviance. If deviance didn't occur, women still wouldn't be able to vote, black people would still not have rights, we'd probably still be in slavery. Those are some of the positives that deviance has brought about. Yes, there are negatives, but that's why we need the older persons to guide us and not shut us down.
I don't want you to feel as if I'm trying to disregard the fact that I'm against challenging the status quo. If you know me, you know that I'm an activist, and I believe in burning down places. I believe in beating gates.
I'm a philosopher, so I'm
I believe in all of that excitement. Come, love excitement. Yeah. I like to challenge the status quo. However, we need to be fully cognizant of how we challenge the status quo, especially as young people. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, but you see how you ask the question, that has a lot to do with it.
And even with the issue of us being on our phones all the time, I see the future as a place where soon persons will be using virtual reality devices with realistic simulations. They don't even have to leave their house to learn.
I don't find a problem with that, you know, using technology to learn and educate yourself, especially to get through college. There's nothing wrong with that. But in terms of the cons, yes. I mean, we do slave over technology a lot. You see me I say? It's a huge problem when every single minute you're seeing somebody.
That is so true.
Everything is just about capturing the moment. I've been here, I did this. What are you doing? You know, like it's some kind of one-upsmanship.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because nowadays we have social media just ready at hand. Simple swipe and that's it. You snap your story wherever you go, your location on, exposing yourself to the entire
vulnerability,
world.
yes.
So that people would know, okay, he's here, he's there, he did this, he did this.
Were you really
You're
there,
basically documenting your whole life and putting it all out there. Yeah. You know, and this can have negative implications on your future life. Back where I'm from in St. Vincent, one of my friends had that similar problem where he was applying for a job. However, they went through his social media, Facebook, and they saw his partying life, shirtless, you know, middle finger and whatnot. And they say, you know what, we don't want this young man. Hire someone else. Because they don't want that kind of, you know.
Yeah, you have to leave room for mystery sometimes, for real though.
Yeah, and even when the students got barred from Harvard, there were some students who got barred from Harvard because Harvard could access their cell phones and their social media profiles and could see that they were sharing certain sentiments that weren't necessarily in keeping with the Constitution.
So is it
and they got barred.
Is it that we need to bar from this sort of technology for a while or in a way, or is it that we need to learn responsibility?
We need to learn responsibility.
We need to exercise a certain level of discipline.
And we need to stay away.
When it comes to these devices.
We need to stay away from trifling influences as well, because it's not just me, you know. I mean, somebody else can tell me, hey, this is the new craze. You know, there's so many challenges on social media. There's so many tasks that we can do just to get a little hype or just to get a little fame. If I wasn't necessarily exposed to that, I'd have been all right. You know what
I mean, coming back to the whole cell phone thing, right? I saw a video on the internet a few weeks ago about a guy who was drowning. And there were teens there recording him laughing, saying, we ain't going to save you. And they recorded it, and he died right there. And unfortunately, the guy was a disabled guy, and he couldn't help himself. It's safe to say that we as millennials, we are not only enslaved by these devices, but we are becoming desensitized as well. I mean, this lovely young lady here, I can, you know, have a good conversation with her face to face, but then, LOL, I say, laugh out loud. And my face is as serious as a bull. Yeah. I mean, even socializing like that, things have become, you know,
social media has become a barrier for socialization. We no longer know how to interact because of social media.
Yes, so many people stay indoors nowadays.
We don't know how to interact.
Some of my neighbors' kids will never come out unless it's to take out the trash.
Yes, I mean, 5 years ago, it's like, where pin me? No, it's like, give me a number now, message up on WhatsApp.
Or FaceTime.
Or FaceTime, you know, rather than going out and meet the person in face to face, you be at home, pinging away on your phone, but when you actually meet the person, you're like, hi, how am I to talk to that girl? You know what I'm saying? You can't socialize.
There you have it. Are young people heard? Do we have voices? Or are we totally consumed by this technological era? We'll have solutions to this right after this break.
We have to build the youths there.
Youth in Jamaica.
There is no other bun like this one. The flavor is so good. Who say bun can't sweet? Oops, mind you bite your finger.
National spiced buns, baked with national pride.
My wow moment.
My wow moment.
My wow moment.
Kind of water with wow.
That's my wow. That's my wow. Yeah. Water with wow. Watch out.
My wow moment when I get the highest massage. That's my wow. Water with wow.
When we get 16 and maths and we never expect so much. That's my wow.
Kind of water with wow. When school over, I'm get for me. That's my wow.
Water with wow.
When I get my back food, that's my wow. Kind of water with wow.
Water with wow.
We have to build the youths there.
Youth in Jamaica.
I am a millennial. And I believe that in order for fellow millennials to prosper, regardless of the stigma, the distractions, or whatever backlash that we may face, remember this. To thine own self, you must remain true and you must remain focused. So no more of actually allowing these devices to control us and brainwash us. Stop trying to be a slave to technology. Let technology be your slave. You know what I'm saying? You should also make sure that you become more sensitized. Learn to interact more. You know what I'm saying? Get out there and actually live, because this world is our oyster after all. And if you really want to win in life, you have to learn the system. Once you learn the system, then you can rule the system. You know? Not just be a part of it. You can actually beat it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm a part of Generation Y, and I want you to be able to understand where my thoughts lie. I want for us to have some meaningful contributions into society, into nation building, into all of that. But as millennials, we have to make the first step. We cannot expect progress and change without actually igniting the flame of all of that. We just can't. We can't expect to sit back and relax and be on the cell phone and expect progress. The world doesn't work like that. So through meaningful contributions, meaningful participation, and through consultation with the necessary personnel, I just want us to be able to willingly interact with our parents, grandparents, generations long before that, and to have something meaningful coming out of it. Not for it to just be just because. We talk to them just because, we interact just because, but with some purpose behind it. And it's not something that we can change overnight. It isn't. It's something that could take years to change, decades to change, because it's an entire paradigm. It's a paradigm shift.
I do believe that we all should try our best to trot the extra mile. Not separate, not apart, not divided, but together. Divided, we fall, and united, we stand. Hence, we need to stand together, sensitize together, feel together. We also need to lead, and we also need to remember that leadership is not felt, but it's felt. Leadership is not told, but felt. So our Generation X folks may be telling us, but to lead us, they really need to feel who we are, feel where we're coming from, and together we both, can feel where we're going in the future.
Things can get better, okay? Older persons out there, yes, you have been through it all and we understand that, but we need to have it open where we can talk to each other, because we need to live good in the same setting. We're all living together, right? And we need to be careful not to have the illusion that things are okay. They need to actually be okay. We need to dismantle the children should be seen and not heard, because it manifests in so many different ways. And millennials out there, tell the truth what God love. Enough of us, a lot of us out here, we are impatient. We get easily frustrated with things. A lot of us don't have a good work ethic. We need to solve the issues that we have, and we need to actually sit down and listen to the people that are talking to us. Because old time people always say, new broom sweep clean, but old broom know the corners.
Generation X, I think we really need to bond. I think we need to understand each other more, so that the labels such as entitled, narcissistic, lazy, maybe through understanding us, you'd be able to use love to see past those labels and work with us a little better. And to my fellow millennials, let's be honest. I think we need to be a bit more responsible. The way in which we grow, the way in which the byproducts, the negative byproducts that are birthed from our progress, I think we need to use them towards our advantage rather than our disadvantage.
I am a millennial. This is not something I chose. I was born into this, something I did not create it, and I can either choose to accept the way things are, try to change it back to how it was, or improve on it and get with the times. I mean, it's moving at a fast pace, and as young people, our minds are constantly working as to how we can ameliorate the situation, make it better. And this is something that Generation X needs to understand. Something else, as millennials, we should also accept that, the fact that we are indeed impatient. I mean, like flowers in a garden, each flower would not bloom at the same time. So we should also not base our successes on others' successes, but, you know, just be patient, and in our own time, you know, we will also be successful also.
And there you have it. We're pretty much all cool here. We spoke a lot, you know. I hope you listened. You know what I mean? Things can actually get better. And with that being said, I throw it to this dub poet here.
Have you ever been afraid of your potential? Denying your energy. It could destroy your mentals. Not releasing it though. It could be consequential. You know, one day you're yard, 10 years later thinking, what if? Or the shoulda, woulda, couldas, yo, it's tragic. Yo, I wish I coulda do this. Imagine the panic of wishing you could change something that you can't. It's simple then, my brother, chase everything you want. Make sure all your actions reflect the things you talk. Make sure you can manage all the stone them with your cast. Know the differences between the face them and the mask, or else you get it lost when you take it all off, like when I met the girl of my dreams, and then I missed the chance thinking I was asleep. Then I wake up too late for really try catch a pre, noticing she was a bird flying by in the breeze. Trying to catch a dream, I sleep with every girl on the grill. Then convince myself so me not take the pill, but no, drawing out, trying to remedy the sickness. Lying to everyone else, but me know Jah is my witness, so I'm holding conversations with the one up above. Him said, G be done, you have to just go do what you love. Even if you face resentment from the ones that you love, they'll understand in due time. So when Jah put the trust that they will see the weight that I hold, how it a drive me crazy trying to maintain control, and how the emptiness it might taint my soul, but dealing with it all it might break or might mold. Millennial thoughts.
We have to build the youths there.
Talk of youth in Jamaica.
Talk of Yout is powered by National Baking Company in association with Cranwatha, a Stanley and Empress production, giving the youth a voice.
As lunch bell ring, everybody run, come gather round in the square, ready fi have fun. On a ring game time, on a hide and seek. Give me some fun squares with nacho cheese. Fun squares with nacho cheese, the fun cracker that we need. Bold flavor, yes indeed. Give me some fun squares with nacho cheese. Fun squares with nacho cheese. Fun squares with nacho cheese, the fun cracker that we need. National fun squares with nacho cheese. National fun square, share a square, share the fun.